Okay, so the topic of the class today, Monday, March 23rd, 2020, Houston, Texas, is Hidden Gems of the Haggadah. And what I'd like to do today is look at the 15 steps of the Haggadah, which you have in front of you on the screen. And first, I'd like to ask you a question. Now, this is a little complicated. Don't all scream out at once. It'd be helpful if you wanted to answer this question, if you could put it in the chat, if you're so inclined. Which of these items is not like the others, right? This is like a game sometimes we play. Which of these is not like the others? So we have all the steps of the Haggadah. One of them stands out as being different conceptually than all of the others. And I'm interested to know what you think that is. So first I'll look to see if anyone writes anything in the chat. I'll also look to see if anyone uses the raise hand function. Anyone have any suggestions as to which of these steps is not like the others?
Telling the story, everything else you do something, maybe. I don't know.
So for everyone's muted, so I cannot hear you. So we're going to try first to use the chat box or the hands up. Any suggestions? The hands up is not literally hands up. It's a function on the Zoom. I see no one has their hand up and no one's typing anything. I think we have to do this the old-fashioned way. Okay, I'm going to unmute everybody and we'll hope for the best. All right, anyone have any suggestions? Which of these things is not like the others?
Rabbi, can you hear me? It's Hannah.
Yes, Hannah.
So I know the answer, but if you want to know what maybe is,
you know
maybe
the
something. I know the answer before but something like you have twice urchatz and rachza. I know why, but I'm telling you that there is twice, and maybe something different is.
I'm looking for one item which is conceptually different than all the others. It's true that we do wash our hands twice at the Seder, and that is very rare. In fact, it's totally unique. It's the only time we wash our hands twice at a meal, although now we wash our hands, a lot of times at a meal. But the only times we wash our hands at a meal
it's a phone,
is because is at the Seder, right? But the question is, okay, so tzafun. Why tzafun?
Because this is like a game, kind of, for the children to stay awake until the end of the Seder.
Well, not exactly, because that's what we turned it into. But tzafun is really where you're supposed to get the afikomen and eat it. It doesn't have to be a game.
Right, it's the last piece of the korban.
We've turned it into a game so that we keep the kids awake.
Right.
That's not obligatory. It doesn't have to be a game. If you're having a Seder alone, for example, or just two people, and you don't want to go through the whole process of, hiding the afikomen. Okay.
Anybody? I don't know. Maybe Shulchan Orech.
Any other suggestions?
Shulchan Orech.
Oh, Chana says Shulchan Orech. Why is Shulchan Orech different?
Because Shulchan Orech is only a meal. It's not part of the. It's not part of the mitzvot to do something.
Okay, good. So Chana is correct. So I'd like to argue tonight that Shulchan Orech is the unique part of the Seder for two reasons. As Steve Finkelman pointed out in the chat section, because it's two words and everything else, all the other things in the Seder are one word. Well done. Thank you for that, Steve. But there's another reason, right? If you look at all of the other, aspects of the Seder, right? All of them have some ritual involved.
Right.
There's something that we do in the course of the Seder, some ritual that we do regarding that particular step, right? Kiddush is the first one. We wash our hands, we eat the karpas, we wash our hands again. Magid is the most important ritual, one could potentially argue, of the Seder, because we tell the story, right? I'm sorry, Yachatz, we break the matzah. Rachza, we wash our hands again. Motzi matzah, we say the brachot, we eat the matzah, we eat the maror, we eat the sandwich. Then all of a sudden comes Shulchan Orech, and there's no ritual, right? There's no obligatory food that you have to eat at the Shulchan Orech. There's really no rules. It's just in the middle of doing all of these mitzvot that we have to commemorate Yetziat Mitzrayim. All of a sudden, there's a meal. You could make an argument that the Seder would have made perfect sense even without the meal, right? We just go through all the stages of the Seder, and at the end we could have something to eat if we want, or we don't have to have something to eat if we want. I guess we would have to have something to eat because it's Yom Tov and you have to eat on Yom Tov. But to make it, consider it actually specifically in that order, right, seems to be a little odd, because there's no ritual, there's no specific mitzvah included in Shulchan Orech. And then Safun, we eat the Afikomen, we have Birkat HaMazon, we have Hallel, and even with Nirtza, right, which is, the truth is, Nirtza is also unique. What is the essence of Nirtza? There's nothing we do at Nirtza, right? We sing L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, and we sing some of the other songs, but those are not necessary, right? We say Chasal Seder Pesach Kilchato, that we have gone through the Pesach Seder in accordance with the halachot, but there's nothing we have to do at Nirtza. And essentially, it's almost, the way I understand Nirtza, it's almost like a prayer where we hope. It comes from the word, the root, Reish Tzadi Hey, which is the same root as Mirutzeh. We hope that what we did at the Seder and the way that we did at the Seder is acceptable to God. That's what Nirtza is. But there are halachot about Nirtza, and that is, you're not allowed to do certain things after the Seder, right? And maybe that's why we've added those songs, and that's why we've added L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, because we wanted to have some sort of ritual or active component for Nirtza. So if you go through all of the steps, Shulchan Orech stands out as being unique in the sense that there's nothing really that we do. So I'd like tonight for us to focus on this notion of what's the point of Shulchan Orech, what's it doing there, and perhaps make the argument that it is the actual centerpiece of the Seder, and it's not just a point. It's not just about dinner. There's more going on at Shulchan Orech than meets the eye. Okay, so before we do this, let's talk about the aspects. Let's talk about the aspects of the Seder. Okay, if we look here on the sheet that I have, there's a note, right? 3 aspects of the Seder. Okay. Let's try again. Another question. What are, right, the 3 main elements of the Seder? Just someone give me one of them. We'll go one at a time. What's the first main element of the Seder?
The story.
But that's too vague, Carol. Break it down. The story of?
Leaving Mitzrayim.
That's the end. You got to start earlier than that.
Being enslaved?
Right. That's point number 1. We're obligated at the Seder to talk about slavery. Now, Carol, I understand your desire to get to the end quickly, but if we start with, and God took us out, as they say in French, Ikar chaser min hasefer, right? The essential, most important part would be missing from the book, right? So we have to start off with, we were slaves to Paro. Okay, good. That is element number 1. What's element number 2? Carol, you're on a roll. You want to take it? Element number 2 was what you said before, which is
Right, we were
God
free.
took us out, right?
Right.
So element number 1 is we were slaves. Element number 2, we were freed, right? And this is the short version of the Seder, right? You've heard that joke? We were slaves, we were freed, let's eat, right? That's the classic version of the Seder. And the third element of the Seder is, it's a little
Thanks.
harder. Anybody? Carol?
Thanks.
Excellent. 3 for 3. Like the Astros, maybe you had the signs in advance. You knew the Haggadah in advance. 3 for 3. That's we have to talk about Avadim Hayinu. We were slaves to Paro. God took us out of Mitzrayim, and we have to thank God. We have to thank God for it. Okay, and we see, of course, we have all of those elements in the Seder. There is an interesting debate, which is we're not going to get into too much tonight, but there is an interesting debate as to how far back do we have to go in Jewish history, right? When we tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, should we start with Avadim Hayinu, that we were slaves to Paro, or should we instead go all the way back to Mitchila Ovdei Avodah Zarah Hayu Avotenu, which we do in the Haggadah. Early, our ancestors were idolaters, okay? But when it comes to the actual story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, we have a very specific things that we say. So, for example, here on the sheet that I gave you, that you have in front of you, right? We have source number 1, Avadim Hayinu Lepar Mitzrayim. Oh, let me get my little pointer. Okay, Avadim Hayinu Lepar Mitzrayim, V'yotzienu, and God took us out, right? V'yotzienu Hashem Elokeinu Misham B'yad Chazaka V'zarmatuya. And then we go into detail, right? This is the heart of the Seder. This is the longest part of the Seder, where we take a bunch of psukim from different parts of we take psukim from Devarim, which is the part of the Torah of Bikurim, where the farmer who came to Eretz Yisrael with his first fruits would make a certain declaration. We take that declaration and we break it up into its component parts. Vayareu otanu hamitzrim vayanunu vayetnu aleinu avodah kasha vayareu otanu hamitzrim kama shenemar havad nitchakma lo. Right? Egyptians did bad for us and afflicted us, etc., etc. Let us be wise towards them. And then we talk more about it. We talk about Vaya'anunu, and we try to find psukim in the as well in the other part of the Torah between Shemot and where's my, I keep losing my arrow. There it is. Right, so we have more psukim here. Vaya'anunu kamashen amar vayasimu alav shem mistim. What does it mean? They afflicted us. The verse in Deuteronomy said they afflicted us, and then we use another verse in Shemot to explain it. This is actually very interesting. I'm not sure if everyone pays attention to what's going on here in the Haggadah. We take verses from Devarim, and we use other verses in Shemot to explain what the verses in Devarim mean. That's what's going on in that middle section of the Haggadah. Okay, and then what does it mean in Exodus, in Devarim, when it says Vayitnu Aleinu Avodah Kasha, that they put upon us hard work, Kema Shenemar, as it says in Shemot, Vaya'avidu Mitzrayim et Bnei Yisrael Befarach. And the Egyptians enslaved the Jews with breaking work. So those are some of the verses that deal with part number 1 of the Seder. We were slaves to Paro in Egypt and all those things. Then, aspect number 2, Vayotzienu Hashem miMitzrayim b'yad chazaka v'zonotiyah. God took us out. These are the verses from Devarim. And then we do the same thing that we do in the first section. We quote psukim from elsewhere. Vayotzienu Hashem miMitzrayim. Lo al yedei malach, lo yedei saraf, lo yedei shaliach, ela kadosh baruch hu b'chvodo v'atzmo. One of the key aspects of the Seder, right, is that God did this all on his own. We've talked about this before. Purim and Pesach are the opposites. Like Purim is the anti-Pesach, and Pesach is the anti-Purim, right? In Purim, it's all about Esther and Mordechai, and God's name doesn't appear in the Megillah. And on Pesach, it's all about God, 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 and Moshe's name barely appears in the Haggadah. Okay, so this is all God. Lo al yedei shaliach, etc., not through anyone but God. V'avarti beret Mitzrayim b'layla hazeh, and God passed through this land on that night and will smite every of the firstborn. Okay, those are the psukim, and then we have that same methodology. V'avarti beret Mitzrayim b'layla hazeh, ani v'lo malach. And I will pass through the land, I and not an angel. I will smite every firstborn, me, I, not a seraph. Okay, so those are aspects number one and number two. We were slaves, and then God came and redeemed us. So then, question: where do we find in the Haggadah aspects of aspect number three, right? Aspect number three was Thanksgiving. So where in the Haggadah do we have the Thanksgiving? Any takers? I'm going to unmute. Any takers? Where do we have the Thanksgiving in the Haggadah?
Hallel.
Excellent. Okay, was that you, Marilyn?
Yes, it was.
Excellent. We have Hallel. Anything else in the Haggadah that's Thanksgiving?
Birkat Hamazon.
I didn't know we had a.
Birkat Hamazon is Thanksgiving for the food, but now we're talking about and you're right, there is an element of Thanksgiving of leaving Egypt in the Birkat Hamazon as well. But I'm talking in the Magid section. Where else do we have it?
No, it says להלל, לשבח, לפאר, לרומם, להדר.
Right.
Then
Okay.
it says,
That's the section here. We have where it says Lefichach anachnu chayavim lehodot lehalel leshabech lefaer. Therefore, we are obligated to thank, praise, laud, glorify, exalt, lavish, bless, raise high, and acclaim. He who made all these miracles for our ancestors and for us. Right. So we're obligated to thank God, and we do it in a few ways. We do it with Hallel, as Marilyn said, and we also do it with Dayenu. Right. Dayenu is part of Thanksgiving. That's an aspect of Thanksgiving. That's Dayenu. So we've identified very briefly in the Haggadah the three aspects of the Haggadah: the slavery, the freedom, and the Thanksgiving. That's essentially what we're supposed to do. So that story about we were free, we were slaves, let's eat is not that's actually not so bad. It gets to the heart of what we're supposed to do. Okay, but what about? So now we come back to the matter at hand. Where does Shulchan Orech fit into all of this? So I'm sharing with you a thought from this wonderful article. It's called Shulchan Orech Merkaz HaSeder. Shulchan Orech, the center of the Seder, written by Hananel Tachubar or Techubar. I do not know how to pronounce his last name 100%. And he asks a really interesting question. I'm gonna see if we can figure out his question. Let's see. There's a fundamental difference in the character of and the nature of what's going on when we talk about the Exodus from Egypt and when we talk about being freed from Egypt, the slavery in Egypt and being freed from Egypt and the Hallel. There's a fundamental difference in outlook between that and between Shulchan Orech. Right. Well, what do you think? What's the fundamental difference? It's not about the food. It's something more sort of fundamental than that. You know, our vantage point. Let's look at what's the vantage point of the Magid. What's the vantage point of the Magid?
Past tense.
We're looking. Sophie Lee, was that you? Who was that? Who said past tense?
Me.
Who's me?
You don't want to do it tonight?
Emily.
Emily. All right. Emily said past tense. So when you look at the vantage point of the of Magid, of all of the psukim and all of the sections of the Haggadah that we just reviewed, that's all in the past. We were slaves. God took us out. Right? It's all about the past. We're even thanking God about the past. The Dayenu is all about things that happened in the past. Okay? And that is what the author of the article says. I'll read it to you. It's not on the sheet, but I'll read to you his language. Ach l'chora l'marot kol ma she'anu omrim u'lemarot she'anu machlilim atzmenu adayin kach nidmeh ruba kikula shel haggadah oseket be'avar. Right? It says no matter how you look at the Haggadah, even if we want to include ourselves in the story, right? Because at one point we say that God did we say V'hisha amda lavotenu vilanu, that these things have stood for our forefathers and for us. Even if he says you want to include yourself and see yourself, which is part of the mitzvah of the story, which is to see ourselves as we left. Even if you do that, at the end of the day, almost everything that we do at the Haggadah deals with the past, right? It's a marvelous past. It's a miraculous past. It's an exalted past, right? Coming from Avdut l'cherut, from slavery to freedom. But nonetheless, it's in the past. And what he's arguing is that's not enough, right? There needs to be something at the Seder where we recognize in the present our current situation. And we take a moment at the Seder to appreciate our positive situation. Now, it's interesting, this year, for many people, probably for most people, Seders are going to be much smaller than they have been. The menus are probably going to be more limited than they have been. And as I've been saying, that's what we're supposed to do this year, right? Like in previous years, we're supposed to serve God with big seders. This year, we're supposed to serve God with small seders.
No.
Okay?
No, but not today.
I'm just muting everybody. That's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to serve God that way. So it's interesting for us in all years, and especially this year, to consider our fortune, our good fortune, even at a time like this. And that's what Shulchan Orech is. And I'm going to read you more of the author's words in a moment, but I see that Carol has her hand up, so I'm unmuting Carol only. Okay, go ahead, Carol.
So it's Magid is all in the past tense, but like Hallel is all in the present tense.
Yes, but
Right?
what are we thanking God for in Hallel? Right, we're saying Hallel to thank God for what was.
Okay.
Right?
But Birkat HaMazon. I mean, Birkat HaMazon, we're thanking him for
But what's Birkat HaMazon attached to?
Shulchan Orech.
Shulchan Orech, right?
Yeah.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Okay, so I'll read you, so let me continue reading because I think he makes such a beautiful point. So he says, everything that we do at the Seder is about the past. He says, Heichan hashevach shalanu, where is our praise? Hayoshvim atal el haseder, sitting at the Seder, hashevach shel dorenu, the praise of our generation, shel tkufatenu, of our time period, shel laila zeh, shel shana zo, this night, this year, right? He's actually pointing out such an interesting aspect of Judaism, which is both beautiful, but comes with a pitfall. It's beautiful that we're always remembering our past. It's beautiful that we always think about it, we always talk about it, and the importance of generational continuity and remembering what and who came before us. But sometimes, I think he's arguing, that comes at the cost of just being happy because of what's happening in front of my own eyes, right? And so there's a balance, he's saying, that the Seder has, which he says he's suggesting goes unnoticed. because we spend so much time at the Seder about what happened in the past that we sometimes lose sight of the goodness that is staring us in the face. And I would argue that maybe harder this year. And so we have to dig a little deeper this year to try to find some positive in our Pesach situation. He goes on, Ketzad navia et cherutenu karega. How do we express our current state of freedom? Et hachofesh shanu adonim latzmenu. The freedom that we have to be our own masters of our time and of our rechush, of our stuff. Et ze balavateya et hashulchan orech. He says, this is the key. This is why when the people who created the Seder stuck Shulchan Orech right in the middle, right? To sort of be a pause, to say, stop. And you spent the last hour, 2 hours, whatever type of Seder family you are, maybe 5 minutes, whatever type of Seder family you are, talking about the past. Now it's time to look at the present. And how do we express that? We express that by eating this full meal, right? Which expresses our changed situation, our current good situation. Hayeshiva liyad shulchan aruch machil kol tov mevi'ah lidei bitui b'tzura habilti emtzait v'abrura mikol et matzavenu hatov kiyom achshav. That's the best way to express the difference between what was then and what is now is through the meal. Efsharut shalanu litader bekelim na'im, the possibility of beautifying ourselves with beautiful utensils, again, may not be so easy this year. B'tavshilim arivim, with good food, basar v'dagim, meat and fish. That is the single best signifier, the single best testimony that we are not in Mitzrayim. So, the Shulchan Orech then is a key part of the Seder because it is the unritualized way of us to show in the most clear way we are our own masters, that we are no longer in Mitzrayim. Hayacholet lashevet beheseba kivnei melachim, to talk, he said, beli pachad mishulton zar, to talk without any concern of anyone sort of knocking down our doors and blood libels. It's so beautiful. He says that the ability to sit down and to appreciating the meal and thinking along these lines is the greatest act of praise to God that we can give for our freedom. So the meal here becomes almost, not almost, it's symbolic, right? The meal is actually symbolic of our freedom and an actual ritualized way of thanking God. Haseba, right? We lean. We have our nice table, right? That's what we do in order to actually praise God. So it's not just a meal. The Shulchan Orech is not really a break in the Seder. It's actually, as he called the Merkaz HaSeder. It's the center. It's the central part of the Seder because of what it represents. Okay, I'm going to unmute to see if anyone has any comments or questions on what I've said so far. All right, any comments or questions?
I have Rabbi Hannah.
Ken.
As far as I know, Shulchan is also a Mizbeach. So there is a connection, right? It's like if a Shulchan is like a Mizbeach and you do korbanot as Odaya al Hashem,
Yes.
as thanks to God, then it's another angle to look at it, no?
Correct. That's a beautiful way to look at it. I think he is saying something a little different. I think you're right, but I think he is saying something else because he dafka does not talk about the Shulchan ki Mizbeach dami, which is what the Gemara says, right? The Shulchan is compared to a Mizbeach. He dafka doesn't say that because I think what he's trying to say is we don't have to try to connect it to some ritual. We don't have to try to connect it to some specific mitzvah. Just the eating in and of itself is shevach v'hoda'ah. If we could turn it into that, if we appreciate it the way it's supposed to be appreciated. So yes, you are right, but I think he's trying to say something a little more radical than that. Okay.
Also, can I say one more little thing?
Sure.
I think that סעודה בכלל in Judaism is סעודת הודיה. Every time we have סעודת הודיה for something. So on Purim is another סעודה, also סעודת הודיה.
Yeah.
I don't know, we have many סעודות הודיה to Hashem for many thanks that he gives us. So
Yes.
that's also a part of it, סעודת הודיה.
Absolutely.
Even if we
Absolutely.
come from a bet kvarot, from a cemetery, we have to eat something, an egg, that.
But that's not a hodah. That's different. That's not a
that's-
hodah. That's different.
Okay.
But you're right. There are many sudot hodah. You're right. Okay.
All
This is
right.
interesting. Shabbat is not a sudat hodah. Shabbat is a sudat oneg. And Yom Tov is a sudat simcha. Right? We have, in Judaism, we have lots of categories. Shabbat is oneg. Yom Tov is simcha. And here, I think you're pointing out something interesting. I think here he's saying that the meal of Pesach has an element of hoda'ah and simcha. It's not pure. Since the people who created the Seder stuck it right in the middle of one of the steps of the Seder, it's telling us that the meal of Pesach has a little bit of a different ofi, right? Has a little bit of a different character than let's say the lunch meal you're going to have on the first day of Pesach. The Seder meals, the night meals have what do you say, Chana, du partzi? Is that right? Is that the right word? They have two faces. Right?
Du partzufi, yeah.
Du partzufi. Okay.
Du partzufi, yes.
I want to just point out one other thing really interesting from the Rambam. The Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim, and you have this here, at the end, toward Moreh Nevuchim, has a beautiful chapter on the purpose of the Torah. And he says, Kavanat klal haTorah shnei divarim, v'hem tikun hanefesh v'tikun haguf. This is no surprise, right? The general object of the law of the Torah is twofold: the well-being of the soul and the well-being of the body. Then he goes on to say that the well-being of the soul is the most important one. That's the reason why the Torah was given, the well-being of the soul. But he says the well-being of the body is necessary, right? Is necessary for the well-being of the soul. Let's read what he says. V'zot hashenit hi hatzricha yoter techila. We'll just read it in English. The latter object, meaning the health of the body, is required first. Meaning, the health of the soul is more important, but in order to get to the health of the soul, you need the health of the body. The latter object is required first. It is also treated in the law most carefully and most minutely, because the well-being of the soul can only be obtained after that of the body has been secured. For it has already been found that a man has a double perfection. The first perfection is that of the body, and the second perfection that of the soul. First consists in the most healthy condition of his material relations, and this is only possible when man has all his wants supplied as they arise. If he has his food and other things needed for his body, like shelter, bath, and the like. But one man alone cannot procure all this. It is impossible for a single man to comfort. It is only possible in a society, and since man is by nature social. He goes on to talk about the importance of a society. We all rely on each other to make sure all of our needs are filled. So it's clear, right? The importance of simcha, right? The importance of rejoicing in those physical things, and those physical things allow us to enjoy and become spiritual, right? If I'm well fed and I'm protected, then I have time to think about spiritual things, right? And it's actually interesting. I think you can make the argument that we see in our day and age that, right, when we were all farmers, We had to work from sun up to sundown. We had no time we had no leisure time. We had no downtime. Now, for many of us, we work. It's not that we work long hours, but we seem to. Society has developed in a way where we have more time to daven and more time to learn, more time to think. We have more what we call free time, and if we could use that free time for spiritual things. So we have this notion that it's just another way of pointing out the importance of the physical, which was the point I was trying to make. The physical enjoyment of the meal at the Seder is really a gateway to the spiritual realization of how fortunate we are, and therefore the physical thing in and of itself is in the service of the spiritual. Just like the Rambam says, all physical things are supposed to ultimately be in the service of the spiritual. So before I conclude, I'm going to unmute again to see if anyone has any comments or questions. I'm going to see if anyone has a hand.
I have one.
Hand up. Okay. Anyone have any comments or questions?
Yes.
Okay. Chana.
Okay, so I'd like to, if you conclude it, so maybe I can add to the conclusion that there are two nice phrases in Hebrew that will serve what you said. One is very famous slogan that says, Nefesh bria beguf bari.
Right.
That's
Good.
one. And the other one, Imen kemach en Torah.
Right.
So if you don't eat, there is no Torah, because you cannot concentrate in learning Torah when your stomach is hungry.
That's right. That's right. That's true. Okay, so just to review, we pointed out that the out of place here is Shulchan Orech.
Right.
It's out of place because all of the other aspects of the Haggadah have some sort of ritual attached to it. We pointed out the three aspects of the Haggadah are the slavery, the Exodus, and thanking God. And we saw different parts of the Seder, and we learned those psukim to focus our mind that all of that is about the past, and we thank God about the past. And then we asked the question, about what about the present? Where is there a moment to celebrate the present? And we suggest that the Shulchan Orech is a moment to celebrate the present, but not just to celebrate the present, to use the present as a way of to be to use something physical, right? A physical meal as a way to praise God, right? To use something physical in the tool of something as a tool of something spiritual, and so by looking out at our table and being grateful for food and the freedom and the family and the friends that are at our table, right? We are able to recognize what we have now and therefore use that as in the service of praising God. And I want to just again point out that this may be a particular challenge this year for many of us, as things are very different at our Seders this year. But I want to encourage everyone to really believe that that's okay, right? And really to remember that that's what we have to do this year, right? We are going to have two out of the ordinary Seders this year, so we could have lots and lots and lots and lots of ordinary, fun, family-filled Seders in years to come, right? If we do what we're supposed to do this year, we'll overcome this pandemic, and we'll be able to next year have our Seders the way that we would like them. So this is a challenge that we have this year, to find something to be happy about, to find something to be full about, to find something that even at our table, which is going to be different, to recognize that we are free, right? That we are voluntarily closing ourselves in, as opposed to our ancestors who were forced to close themselves in. We are voluntarily doing this for our own good. And we still have food, we still have shelter, we still have loved ones, even though they may not be around our table. We still have friends who care about us, and people who are taking care of us and thinking about us during this difficult time. So if we put our minds to it, we could find ways to even turn this Seder into a real moment of Thanksgiving. And I hope that everyone is able to do that. So that's all I got. Thank you for joining. We had a nice crew again. Let's see, we had 20 people on. This is wonderful. Keep it coming. Next class is tomorrow night with Ruthie at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock tomorrow night with Ruthie.
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night with Ruthie, Shir Hashirim. But before that, Wednesday at 12 o'clock with me. That's 1 o'clock Eastern time. 12 o'clock with me for what used to be Lunch and Learn. Now it's just, or you can bring your own lunch.
Tuesday.
So Wednesday is Lunch and Learn at 12, and Wednesday night is Ruthie at 8 o'clock. And Thursday night is a emotional mental health check-in with 3 brief presentations. One presentation to help parents cope with children who are dealing with change of schedule and change of learning style and being cooped up in the house. Another one is dealing with adults and just trying to deal with stress and healthy habits during a period like this. And the third person will address issues related to couples, shalom bayit. Listen to this crazy statistic I heard. Divorce rates in China, this is not a joke, have gone up 300% since their quarantine.
Oh,
Because
is that an excuse?
Healthy marriages, even the healthiest of marriages, right, are not necessarily built to withstand this type of situation. And so in China, they actually shut down the offices that process divorces. And they told everyone to take a break and see if things get back to normal. So there is a lot to talk about there. So we're going to have a couples counselor give us some shalom bayit pointers as well. So that is Thursday night. That's at 8:45. That's at 8:45. Okay, and all this is on the website. Or text me if you have any questions. Great to see everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thanks for joining. Adios.